welcome to Anchor Network, where you get updates of things happening around you and things you would like to know. I appreciate everyone who has subscribed to this channel and those who are yet to subscribe. And if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Click the red button and also click the bell icon so that you'll be notified anytime we publish any news. This time around, we have wonderful news for you that you will be glad that you are aware of. Stay tuned. The Nigerian elections in 2019 that brought President Muhammadu Buhari back into office for a second term were marred by political violence, some of it by soldiers and police officers, Human Rights Watch said on Monday. Buhari defeated Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the keenly contested poll. Human Rights Watch called on Buhari to take concrete steps to address the widespread political violence and ensure accountability for human rights abuses by soldiers and police as he begins his second term. The report on the election released on the HRW website on Monday noted that the election period included persistent attacks by factions of Boko Haram terrorist group in the northeast, increased communal violence between nomadic herdsmen and farmers spreading southward from north-central states, and a dramatic uptick in banditry, kidnapping, and killings in the northwestern states of Kaduna, Katsina, and Zamfara. It maintained that security forces have failed to respond effectively to threats to people's lives and security. Human Rights Watch said it interviewed 32 people, including voters, journalists, election observers, activists, and independent National Electoral Commission officials in Rivers and Kano states, and documented 11 deaths specifically related to violent interference in the election process during the February 23rd presidential election and subsequent state elections. It added, the national and state election in February, March, and April 2019 contributed to the general insecurity across the country. The politically related violence reported in many states was in contrast to the relatively peaceful 2015 election that brought Buhari into his first term in office. According to a report by SBM Intelligence, which monitors social, political, and economic developments in Nigeria, 626 people were killed during the 2019 election cycle, starting with campaigns in 2018. Kano State in northwestern Nigeria has the highest number of registered voters in the country. Rivers State in the Niger Delta receives the largest share of crude oil-based national revenue, representing significant electoral value to any political party. The history of elections in both states is replete with violence by state security agencies and criminal elements. Human Rights Watch focused its research on both states in view of projections and reports of violence during the 2019 elections. Despite police claim of increased security measures to ensure peaceful voting, there seems to have been little or no police response to reports of threats and acts of violence by hired political thugs and soldiers against voters and election officials, Human Rights Watch found. Voters and election officials said that policemen either fled or stood idle by fueling allegations of complicity as perpetrators stole election materials, disrupted voting, and harassed voters. Witnesses said that the police also showed live rounds of ammunition and used tear gas to disperse people protesting voting disruptions. Witnesses said that after a soldier was killed in the town of Abunema in Rivers State on election day, soldiers shot at residents, killing an unknown number of people. They also carried out sweeping arrests and arbitrarily detained several people. The soldiers were on a rampage, shooting at anyone around, said a 37-year-old man who witnessed the episode. As I made my way to flee, I saw people dive into the river, many with gunshot wounds. The next day, I saw 3 dead bodies, riddled with bullets, floating in the water. I heard many more bodies were later recovered from that river. Human Rights Watch noted that banditry and the recurring cycles of deadly violence between herdsmen and farmers appear to have taken the lives of thousands. According to civil society reports, over 3,641 people have died from deadly clashes between herdsmen and farmers since 2015, and at least 262 people have been killed by bandits since the beginning of 2019 in Zamfara State alone. The government deployed 1,000 military troops to the state in response, but few of those responsible for the violence have been arrested or held to account. The Northeast conflict with Boko Haram and its splinter groups also remains one of Buhari's pressing challenges. Although Boko Haram's territorial control has shrunk to small pockets of villages around Lake Chad as a result of sustained government military action since 2015, the group continues to carry out attacks against civilian and military targets in the region and in neighboring Niger, Cameroon, and Chad. In recent months, renewed fighting between Nigerian government forces and a faction of Boko Haram known as Islamic State of West Africa Province has led to secondary displacement of civilians. Security forces have been implicated in serious abuses, including arbitrary arrest, prolonged detention without trial, torture, extrajudicial killings, rape and sexual violence against women and girls in camps for displaced people. According to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, more than 27,000 civilians have died and about 1.8 million people have been displaced since the beginning of the conflict in 2009. Authorities have also failed to address impunity for killings by security forces elsewhere in the country. The authorities have yet to publish the report of the Presidential Judicial Panel set up in August 2017 to investigate the military's compliance with human rights obligations, allegations of war crimes, and other abuses by the military. Nigerian voters have entrusted Buhari with another opportunity to address the nation's serious human rights problems, including political violence, Enwang said. He should start by reforming the security forces to ensure strict compliance with human rights standards and prompt investigation and prosecution of those credibly implicated in abuses. On the 2019 election violence, Human Rights Watch said Nigeria's elections have historically been fraught with controversy, violence, and other abuses, with the 2015 elections widely believed to have been largely free of violence. Bucking this trend, there were reports of voters' intimidation and violence around the 2019 elections at both the federal and state levels, including by armed men hired by candidates and political parties and by security forces, including the National Police. Bauchi, Benue, Kano, Sokoto, Plateau, and Rivers State were particularly affected by violence during the March 9 gubernatorial elections. The Independent National Electoral Commission cancelled elections in places where the elections were disrupted and held supplementary elections later. Kano State had supplementary elections on March 23rd and Rivers State on April 13. Kano and Rivers State were probably by worst hits of these 6 states. They were identified by both local and international analysts ahead of the elections as holding great potential for electoral violence. Both are major political strongholds for the 2 leading political parties, Buhari's ruling All Progressives Congress (APC) and the opposition People's Democratic Party (PDP). Abdullahi Ganduje of the APC won the 2019 election in Kano, and Nyesom Wike of the PDP won in Rivers State. So guys, these are just the detail of what's really happened during the election since the inception of this government. And what this Human Rights Watch is talking about is that since Buhari has come in the second time, that these irregularities and abnormalities that happened, that he should try and address them so that we'll have a better society. So this is the time for them to set the record straight and right the wrongs so that this kind of a thing will not occur in the nearest future. Again, it should be a thing of the past. So they are calling on the president to do the needful so that all these things will not be happening again, because it's not really a good thing. It's not really speaking well of a president that is ready to fight anything that has to do with corruption, because corruption is not only when you steal money. Corruption is when you don't do the right thing. It's corruption. In this our climb, we believe it's only when you steal money that is when we talk about corruption. I can remember when a Goodluck Jonathan was saying it then, people were like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he was talking about. So every irregularity, every abnormalities is corruption. So we are calling on the president as the president of the country, as someone who has the opportunity, to right the wrongs, to be able to do the needful so that we'll have a peaceful environment. So guys, that's just my own opinion concerning what a Human Rights Watch has said. If there's anything you want to add to it, or if there's anything you want to contribute or whatever, you are very free to put down your comments. And please let us be civil. Let us, respect other people's opinion. No insults. Whatever you feel that is not right, you just state your opinion and let people learn from it. Thank you very much for always listening. Bye.